It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 374. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Howdy.
Tam.
Give me that midnight cake.
And Thalen.
Hi.
I mean, I introduced people all professional like.
You can have midnight cake.
What the hell is midnight cake?
It's cake you have at midnight.
Okay.
We were discussing this yesterday, and to which, I came up with the idea, hey, that could just be a pancake, which you could get at an IHOP, and discovered that IHOP is, in fact, the only 24/7 eatery around here.
Okay.
But cake. We want cake.
And cake is good.
Where's our cake?
Pie is also good. I will always accept either. I'm not awake at midnight, so I can't eat midnight cake. It's been years since I've been awake at midnight. It's really weird doing this tonight because we have sort of gotten out of a normal routine of doing these weekly. we've had several multi-shows that, ended up with us off for a while, so...
Or just coincidentally timed with a bunch of big days like Christmas Day and New Year's Day.
Yep. So yeah, it is a little weird that it is a Saturday and we're recording. But I feel like I'm living in a strange world because Microsoft is buying ActiBlizz.
Oh, I thought you've been just in general.
No.
For the past 2 years.
This week specifically is just stuff out of the Twilight Zone.
Alternatively, corporate consolidation is the most normal thing of this era.
I was going to say, it sounds like Microsoft being Microsoft to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Microsoft bought my favorite mobile calendar management tool and ate it.
Every so often, Redmond's great eye, turns its baleful gaze to something new and devours it. It's just how it is.
But I don't think anybody saw this
Microsoft than Adobe.
True. Yeah.
Or
Oracle?
Yeah, Oracle.
Oh God, Oracle.
Oh man. Now I have this hilarious mental image of Oracle getting into video games.
You're terrifying me. I'm going to have to go away now.
It would probably be games involving the weird little Java mascot that they created once upon a time.
Did they do that or did Sun do that?
Sun probably did it.
I'm pretty sure it's Sun, but they own it now. Yeah,
they own it now. Yeah,
whatever. They own everything because they buy everything.
Yeah,
and charge an exorbitant fee for it, and will audit you at a moment's notice.
Yeah, now I'm just imagining what Adobe video games would be like, and none of it's good.
You'd have to have I was going to say you'd have to have a weird third-party launcher in order to enable access to it, but that's Steam.
That's common.
So
that's common nowadays.
I was going to say, or what you do is you look at the system requirements of Star Citizen and multiply it by 2.
Adobe products
really expensive subscription.
Adobe products will consume every last drop of system resources that you have available.
Oh yes.
Not even Star Citizen does that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It draws the line at
30
gigabytes of RAM.
I've not seen it go over 12.
Fair.
But yeah, Microsoft's buying all the studios. So, we're just going to have more stuff on Game Pass, right? It's been a weird week in gaming news.
So, on the topic of corporate consolidation, I think that's kind of apt because there's a company that decided to do entertainment consolidation and it's worked out great for them. They're called Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to be honest, so I'm very torn on this point because having mega corporations is universally bad, but also having more stuff on Game Pass is pretty cool. And also,
that's how they get you, Bill.
Oh man.
like I cannot tell you how good of a deal Game Pass is.
Do I have a Disney Plus subscription? Yes. Do I get great value out of it? Yes. Am I still horrified by the amount of entertainment Disney has under its umbrella?
Also, yes.
Yeah, like it's this weird feeling because, like, on one hand, okay, so I don't know how much we've really talked about it on this show, but we've all talked about it on the side. Blizzard and Activision Studios are really bad places for human beings to work.
Uh-huh.
And something has to change.
Yeah, I mean, my whole takeaway from this purchase is just the crushing reminder of how effing evil golden parachutes are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, because, like, at this point, there's really nothing Microsoft can do to make things right when it comes to getting rid of the person who is at least in large part responsible for everything that's happened at Activision Blizzard.
The entire management structure. I mean,
yeah, well, yeah, that too.
Yes, we like to put an evil face on the guy at the top, but the entire management structure.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of my thing. It's like,
yeah, it's
to be fair, we are talking about, at one level, we're talking about Bobby Kotick, the person whose "I took over Activision" speech involved, "I'm very interested in taking the fun out of making video games," as an actual direct quote.
Mm-hmm.
And has consistently done so over his entire tenure. But the thing that's come out for me about the whole Blizzard thing is that it was a toxic, problematic place well before it was acquired by Activision.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
and I
could
think
have
that
done
to
something
me was
about
like
it when they acquired it.
Yeah, like I think that to me was the more galling discovery.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like all the problems that existed were just, paved over and codified into the environment.
Well, and it is also telling that Bobby Kotick is going to get that golden parachute because he is not going to be get fired with cause because the entire board of directors has his back.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
And so,
because if he could get fired with cause, then
probably so could some of
who
them.
Who else could? Who else has done things just as bad or worse in the corporate in any corporation? Because it's a very small club, all told.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things where the whole tree is kind of rotten.
And to be fair, this isn't just a Blizzard problem. This is a entire industry problem, and many other industries
in general. Yeah, because
Ubisoft most visibly is the other name in video games, but they're not alone.
I mean, Riot's done some pretty awful stuff too. So
Yep.
It makes, and the other thing that it makes me think of is I'm not sure I've ever been convinced that third-party game publishers were a good idea.
Oh, you mean like extent of the console?
Yes. Like, because you've got two types of game publishers, right? You've got Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Previously Sega, but not anymore. Who are independent, who are basically the platform holders. And you've got individual studios, and then you've got these go-betweens in the form of Activision, EA, formerly Bethesda, etc.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This definitely made a lot more sense before consoles were platforms and before I'm also thinking of the fact that like you also have to contend with like games being published on PC. Like the fact that everything's gone digital definitely makes the job of a publisher less clear.
The value proposition that Well, yes. One of the things that a publisher was there for was to get your game into stores.
To publish your game onto a medium that goes out to a store.
Yeah.
And that's still their thing. Like they're the ones with the deals with Steam. They're the ones who have the big marketing departments, so on and so forth. Is that worth it?
That's a hard question.
It is.
I feel like people are saying no. Like
plenty of indie studios are able to get the word out all by themselves, but then again, how many more indie studios never do successfully get the word out because they didn't happen to make the viral tweet?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I would also say that I know from people who like reading tweets from people who are in mobile space, like they can watch them turning on marketing and them turning off marketing and how it drives people to their game and be like, yep, that's how, like, that's all it is. Like, people are going to the way you get somebody to try our game is to market it to them. And the way you get people to return to your game is to market it to them.
Yep. Well, and I've heard it's also a really big deal when a storefront on a console has your game front and center. Like when you pop open the store on PlayStation or you pop open the store on an Xbox and a title is sitting there, like right there advertising. I've heard that is a huge thing. Like there's a big bump when that's happening. But like it feels like we're in this area where maybe the game publishers like EA are too slow in this market, and instead the console manufacturers are going directly to like indies to make deals with them specifically to get their games on the platform.
I mean, that's basically been Epic's approach. Epic is one of those third-party publishers who would like to become, well, first of all, they make Unreal also, but they basically are a platform holder as a result of that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that I'm noting more and more is that there's no reason why Epic, if you're looking at traditional, expansion, like the way these things have expanded, there's no reason why Epic should be able to like suddenly become as big as they have. And for the most part, it's just because they, what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean,
they have a platform.
My telling of that story is they used their platform to get insight into a game that was becoming popular and then used it to make their own more popular game that made a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then cut a bunch of deals for exclusives.
I mean, that was step 3 or so.
Right,
Yeah,
but like, to be fair, the only reason why Steam gamers really cared about Epic is because there were occasionally games that they couldn't get on Steam. Like initially. Now that they've got games on Epic,
I think to the point, though, the way that they just blatantly ripped off one of their clients' games is pretty shady. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I mean, to be fair, it's a better version, but still.
It's also like, hey, we need help doing some work in your engine. Can you do this? Yes. Also, we're going to take all of the work that we just helped you with and build our own competitor.
Hey, okay, so as much as that has been said, like, I'm not sure I buy it because by the time PUBG came out, it was the third version of the same game by the same guy. Like it was iterated on by the same person numerous times. Like, so it wasn't like a brand new idea.
In order for him to, make a successful one, he asked Epic for help.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's sort of the opposite of the story of, like, honestly, Blizzard story, where
I was going to say that there's a lot like Riot's story.
It's a lot like Riot. It's absolutely Riot's story in a lot of ways. But I guess the place I was going to with it is I don't know that I don't know that the value proposition offered by a third party publisher is worthwhile anymore. I mean, it was clearly worth it for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But the further we get from the more digital we get and the more you have Microsoft, Sony, etc., who have very solid deals, the more it makes sense to just be like, let's work with them.
Yeah, I mean, because really, you're going to have to get on their storefronts anyway.
Do you like my hat? It is made of money.
Yeah, well, but you're going to pay them anyway.
Exactly.
So why not pay only one person? Why pay two people?
Was that coming from like 1999?
It's real.
It feels like ancient history now.
I feel like that was one of their first like big breakout like quotables.
The most interesting thing that I've seen this week is people
2000.
freaking out over Call of Duty.
Yes, because a lot of people play Call of Duty on PlayStation platforms.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And and the thing is like, so you have two camps. One camp is, oh, hey, Starfield is an Xbox and PC exclusive, so surely Call of Duty is going to be an Xbox and PC exclusive. And then there's the other camp that's like, oh no,
Microsoft likes money.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Microsoft would never turn down that much money, but like, I don't know if they would, because like at this point, they're shooting towards a future goal. Like, there's a future state they're trying to get to, and I don't know that they care about Call of Duty money. In fact, they've already come out and said that they'd prefer not to release as many Call of Duty games as Activision did.
I mean, I feel like having some serious exclusives is one of the goals they're working on, because it has historically been their problem as a platform holder.
Mm-hmm. I mean, while I definitely understand the Call of Duty concern, I feel like the Crash and Spyro fans are in a even worse boat.
Oh yeah,
that one is like,
but like,
interesting on so many weird levels.
I think though, there's a more likely case of more Crash and Spyro games happening by this than there were before, since Toys for Bob was basically turned into a Call of Duty studio.
They took, after making Crash 4, which is an excellent game, apparently it didn't sell as much as they wanted it to. I bought it. But yeah, they just decided, we can stop that. Let's have them make Call of Duty. Because I guess if Call of Duty is the only thing that makes money, it's the only thing you want to make more of. Well, that's how that works, right?
You can look at the list of projects that were being worked on by Activision Studios, and it's all Call of Duty. Like, everybody's working on Call of Duty.
So I also know from listening to the afters of this week's Checkpoint, apparently one of the things Phil Spencer went on a conversation about was like, this isn't just like, we're not just buying the Activision of today, we are buying the entire Activision back catalog of intellectual property. Like, Hexen is a game Activision owns.
Yeah.
Do you want more Hexen?
Yeah, I had a YouTuber make a comment about Arcanum, which Activision owns, and had definitely no interest in making any more of ever.
Yeah, I mean, there is that with new people like in charge. They might decide, hey, you should make this thing. Go make it.
Do you want more King's Quest or Space Quest?
I kind of don't. Wait, why does Sierra not own those?
I mean, it depends on who's making it.
Sierra doesn't barely exist anymore.
Yeah, Sierra doesn't even really exist anymore.
I lost track after they made Geometry Wars 3. Which, even then, that was a few years ago.
Apparently, like, Guitar Hero?
Like, modern Sierra is kind of a zombie studio anyway. Like,
I mean, that's fair.
It has no connection to the original.
So Sierra was owned by Activision during the time of Geometry Wars 3 in 2014.
It was,
so
yes.
Yeah, okay. It's just Activision anyway.
I wonder if it is a better deal to put what's this called? To put Game Pass on PS5.
I really do think that's something Microsoft wants to do.
Like,
I hadn't even really thought about that.
I mean, Phil Spencer has said he would like to have Game Pass on PlayStation and Switch.
Yeah, and it sounded like they were in the process of working out a deal for one of those, but it didn't sound like it was the PlayStation one.
No, it wasn't.
Why not? Like, I mean, it's one of those like, why wouldn't you try to put Game Pass on PS5? There's no reason it wouldn't. There's pretty much no reason it wouldn't work. So if you want really great PR,
I'm sorry, I need to back up a minute because now I'm thinking of a Space Quest game made by Double Fine, and I very much want this thing.
Like, if you take some of those old properties and put them in the hands of people who would be good at them, I would play a resurrected Arcanum done by Obsidian.
I mean, there's so many good studios that now are owned by Microsoft.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that when you have a really, really big, when you have a publisher with deep pockets, one of the things that you can theoretically do is a bunch of experimental stuff, because only a few of these things need to succeed.
And that is one of Sony's and Microsoft's strength as a platform holder. Those aren't the largest part of either of those companies.
Right.
I was also going to say, though, there is a definite size differential between Sony and Microsoft, because even after this acquisition, Microsoft still has twice the cash on hand that Sony does.
Right.
And that's only assuming that you're paying for this entire acquisition out of cash on hand. It's probably going to be structured in some different way.
Yep.
And yet, they're still a smaller company than Sony, even after completing this acquisition.
Microsoft is?
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Sony's big, yo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misleading size comparisons that are comparing Sony's games division with Microsoft, the company. And those are not the right way. That is not the right comparison to make.
Yeah, I mean, Sony's got their hands in so many things that are, esoteric as to gaming.
Yeah.
Broadcast hardware, like
esoteric.
I feel like maybe we're looking at, I'm misunderstanding this, but that's not what I can see based on a quick lookup.
Are you looking at Sony or Sony Computer Entertainment?
I'm looking at Sony Group Corp.
All right.
Which has a market cap of 143 billion versus 2.2 trillion for Microsoft. Like, granted, I mean, Microsoft also has a lot of other things they do other than their games division.
I mean, also Microsoft has, a whole lot of that money tied up in hats and dinner.
I mean, all their money's in the cloud, right?
I mean, when everybody gets a money hat, that's a lot of money. I don't know. I am concerned about over consolidation, generally speaking. Yeah, like I'm concerned about this, but like no more so than all of the other companies buying up all of their competitors that is going on. Like there are areas other than video games where I'm more concerned about this.
I was going to say, and also the problem is that the incentives, I feel, for governments to regulate antitrust are not there right now.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah, even as big as Microsoft is, there are other companies that are huge in the same spaces.
Yeah.
In other countries.
Yeah. Tencent exists, and...
Embracer Group has been snapping up people left and right without anybody really realizing it.
I was going to say, the politicians who would have to regulate Microsoft say, hey, maybe we want to have Microsoft be the American megacorp to compete with foreign megacorps.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I didn't realize Embracer was the parent company of THQ Nordic.
Yup. Like seriously, at some point, look that up on a Wikipedia entry at everything they've acquired. It's significant. Like, it's a bunch of smaller stuff, but it's a lot.
I knew the whole THQ combining with Koch Media was a large umbrella. Oh, they renamed themselves after a certain point. This used to be called THQ Nordic. They just changed the name of the holding company.
Yep. We should talk about some more cheerful things.
We should. and I am going to spin off this a little bit just to talk about Game Pass. I have picked up an Xbox Series X, and I don't have a lot of actual games on the Xbox, but I do have Game Pass because I've had it on the PC for a while. Just because even on the PC, it's quite a decent deal, and xCloud is cool. But as a result, I have been playing a bunch of random games that suit my fancy. And that is probably the best thing that Xbox has going for it, is that it is just so friggin' easy just to drop into a game on Game Pass and see what it's like. So one of those that came out this past week, I believe, or maybe it was last week, is Nobody Saves the World. And I know I've got a couple folks on the podcast that are going to be playing it. But like initially, I just launched this off the console in xCloud and played it with xCloud for about an hour while I decided, was it worth downloading? Because through the xCloud version, I could just pop in instantly and start playing it. And then, you know, my save game from xCloud carried over to when I installed it on the console. This is a weird game. Like, there's a bunch of games that, well, there's a couple games that I've played recently. Nobody Saves the World and a game called Archvale, that are both Zelda throwbacks. And when I say Zelda in this specific case, I'm talking about the original Legend of Zelda. And Nobody Saves the World is kind of a Zelda-like in that aspect, in that, you know, it's a top-down overworld. You know, you're trying to save the world from an evil wizard. But the catch with Nobody Saves the World is, one, it's from Drinkbox Studios, so folks from Guacamelee, so expect that style of humor. And two, there is this mechanic where you're Mr. Nobody. You have like no abilities until you pick up a magic wand, and then you start being able to learn forms that you can change into, and like
about things that turn into other things, so there was no way I wasn't going to get it.
Yep. So like the first form you pick up is a rat, and the rat can get through, you know, tight spaces, kind of like Minish form Link. And you do dark damage for bites. And then that allows you to eventually get like some more forms, like the guard or the ranger. And every time you switch forms, you have the ability to learn new abilities. But the catch is, once you've learned an ability, you can mix and match those abilities with other forms. So I can be running around as the Sword and Shield guard, but have the bite attack from the rat. Or I can give, you know, the rat my stomp attack from the guard that, you know, stuns everything. And I've not gotten terribly far into the game, but from what I understand, there's a lot of interesting synergies by mixing form abilities. I can be a horse. That was the last one I unlocked, and the horse has a charge attack and like a kick attack, and it's really interesting. Like it's enjoyable, and it takes the fairy fountain concept from Zelda as your healing up spot, but also kind of turns it into the campfire from Dark Souls, in that you can teleport from fairy fountain to fairy fountain, but also if you use a fairy fountain, it ends up respawning the tiles that have surrounded you. So like the world basically respawns. But like it's kind of the perfect example of like a Game Pass game, a game that, you know, I might have taken a while to buy, but if I can just pop in real quick and play it, it's awesome. I can check it out and decide whether or not I enjoy it, and I may end up picking it up for other platforms as a result. But I am enjoying it so far. I'm a couple hours into it, I think.
It sounds fun. I like more Zelda-likes.
So Archvale is another one that came out that is a Zelda-like, and it's more. It reminds me of I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. What was the Gauntlet-like game that we played that had the Necromancer or Warlock and the Archer and
Gauntlet?
No. Hammerfall.
Yeah, Was it Hammerfall? Yeah. Okay, so this game is more graphically like Hammerfall was.
Hammerwatch.
There you go. But the main thing with Archvale is it's a twin stick shooter Zelda. So you move your character with one thumbstick and you aim your attacks with the other thumbstick. So it's kind of interesting. It's not anywhere near as detailed as Nobody Saves the World yet. Its big thing is you can switch weapons on the fly, and your weapons dictate what kind of attacks you have. So like if you want, to do ranged attacks, you just equip a bow. If you want to do melee attacks, you equip a sword, that sort of stuff. Another gem that I stumbled across on Game Pass is new Super Lucky's Tale. And this is a game that, I know I remember seeing when it came out. I remember
Lucky's Tale was one of the big things for the Xbox One, and Lucky's Tale, without the Super, was one of the big first VR games.
That's what I thought, yeah. And I remember seeing this and thinking, oh, that looks cute, and then ignoring it. And I just...
yeah, same.
I just happened to be scrolling through the list. I'm like, oh, you know what? That sounds interesting. Let's play it. It is not a complicated game. I will say that. It is not you're not going to get any Kaizo level detail out of this game. It's pretty straightforward. But it's cute as hell. You're a fox that has gotten separated from, his family and sucked into a magical book. And now you got to collect the pages of the book, Mario 64 star style. And there's a bunch of levels in an area, and you need to collect a number of pages to unlock access to the boss of that area. And the bosses are all members of the kitty litter, which are all cat bad guys. The first one I fought was a ninja. The second one was like a steampunk mad scientist. The third one is Napoleon Bonaparte with a giant oafish cat that he rides around on. Your attacks are basically... you can burrow into the ground and move really quickly and pop up underneath things, or you can tail whip things raccoon suit style. The levels are a blend of a bunch of different things. So there are Mario 64-ish / Spyro-ish open world exploration levels where you do objectives and you get your page that way. There are some that are, more 2D style side-scrolling levels. There's some that are kind of an endless runner style level.
I was going to say, I thought this was the game by the people who really wanted to make a banjo game.
No, that's Ukulele.
That's Ukulele.
Oh,
yeah, that's okay. Ukulele.
I think I just mixed these two up in my mind.
But it's super cute, and it's got some well-written puns in the story. It's got...
and yet you recommended this to me anyway.
Yeah. No, you won't mind it. It's cute. It's fine. The other thing that it does that I love is it doesn't do actual speech. It basically has Simlish type speech for all the characters. But it's not just this super generic thing, kind of like Animal Crossing does. It's each area has a dialect of, nonsense speech that they're doing. So you encounter this, farm area with a bunch of, hick worms, and they all have kind of a hick accent when they do their, you're a wordle, where to.
I'm starting to understand how you confuse this game with the Banjo-Kazooie not game. That's a thing Banjo-Kazooie did.
Yep. But yeah, no, it is super cute. I mean, it's not terribly complicated. It would be an ideal first platformer for young gamers because, it's not doing anything super complicated. But it's just fun. I mean, it's an entertaining little game. I'm about 3 hours into it. I think I'm on the third area. I'm not exactly going super quickly. I could have probably beat everything faster, but it is really enjoyable. And I have other things that are on GameShot, or Game Pass, but I am going to take a break for a moment, and we'll talk about OneShot.
I'm just going to note that you said you could have maybe beaten it a little faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that Kodra just did the same thing I just did and looked up the speedrun times.
I have not.
What are the speedrun times?
They're like 45 minutes.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. It is not a technically complicated game.
That's longer than the Mario 64 speedrun, though.
Yeah, but that's not... Mario 64 is... Which one?
Any percent.
Yeah, okay. AKA 0 star.
0 star. I don't think humans can do 0 star.
Humans can do 0 star.
What?
Humans can't do the mode skip.
Okay.
But humans can do 0 star.
I didn't realize there was a way to do 0 star without mode skip.
No, you just have to fight Bowser in the Dark World.
Oh, there's no way to do 0 star without Bowser.
Yes. You just have... Fighting Bowser 3 times is all you do in 0 star.
How? How is that even a thing? Do you just skip to the final fight?
Optional.
Doors are optional.
And because if you go fast enough, you can even skip the entrance to Dire Docks, which was why 1 star existed. You had to get that one to move the entrance back so you could fight Bowser in was it Bowser in the Fire Sea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But OneShot. OneShot is a game. Apparently, I missed it. Came out in 2016. And this is definitely like in the vein of games that are messing with what you can do from a narrative perspective on a video game. Like, this is a game that has to be played on a computer. Like, you could not do this on a console because it's got some computer specific things going on with it.
Is this doing like Doki Doki Literature Club stuff or what?
I actually have never played Doki Doki Literature Club. I was told maybe not. Maybe that'd be too much for me.
I mean, neither have I, but I know that it like actually like writes files onto your computer that you have to go look at and stuff.
Okay, it's doing a little bit of that stuff, yes.
It's doing a lot of fourth wall breaking, much like Doki Doki Literature Club.
It's doing a lot of fourth wall breaking, but it's doing the fourth wall breaking for a narrative effect. Like, it's trying to get a specific narrative moment to occur, and to do that, it's using the breaking of the fourth wall. But it's like, it's weird. It's less breaking of the fourth wall and more like bringing the character into the narrative, bringing you as a person into the narrative of this game. Like, you, the person sitting at the computer seat, are very much a character in the story that is happening.
Yeah, that's what the fourth wall break is.
I mean, there are less elegant ways to do that.
Yeah, there are ways where it's like the chorus directing like conversation directly at the audience. Like, it's less that and more like, oh, hey, hi, Kodra, I see that are you back? I was worried you had left, type of stuff. Like, having a conversation with the characters and them like addressing you directly.
Very Stanley Parable style.
Yeah. But it's a very fun game with a very like, it doesn't feel like it's doing this for like a weird horror effect. Like, it's doing this for that's the thing is like, for me, it's not like trying to mess with you in it. Like, I feel like a lot of fourth wall breaks feel like they are doing them to like mess with your head, and it doesn't feel like that to me.
They're doing it for psychological horror reasons a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I very much enjoyed it. It's not a very long game. It's got the most adorable hero, a cute cat in an oversized jacket and hat. And I generally really had fun with it. And it's also doing some very interesting things that I had not seen necessarily with like methods of doing a fourth wall break. Like, there are a couple of moments where like were legitimately new to me. So yeah, generally would recommend people check it out.
I'm really excited to see a lot of the stuff that I'm used to from old adventure games starting to make like a resurgence in the indie space.
Yeah. This definitely feels like an old adventure game as well.
Because there was a lot of, I mean, that was a big thing in old adventure games, where these like heavy fourth wall breaks, often doing something very like either narrative or weird but not horror based.
Yeah.
Because like I remember Undertale is a great example of like Undertale is drawing from some old Lucas Arts and Sierra stuff in a really big way, as far as like what it's doing with the fourth wall. And I always thought that was really neat. Like, and it's cool to see that kind of thing coming back. That was a lot of what I really loved about old adventure games. Some of the clever like uses of the medium.
I sort of wonder if the mid-2000s, everything must be brown and serious, kind of killed some of this, and it's coming back.
Yeah, it did. It was a big reason it drove me bonkers.
I think that and everything must have full motion video, like, did a lot of damage to the space.
Yeah, I think that did more harm to adventure games than anything, because after the success of Seventh Guest and Myst, everything had to have FMV.
I mean, that hit some other genres as well, because Final Fantasy VII was so successful.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly having FMV is the reason why Final Fantasy VII was so successful.
Clearly.
Right. Well, and
so
there was
we have Tim
like,
Curry yelling about space.
There's a lot of like not really understanding what made adventure games good, because there are a whole bunch of people that were like, adventure games are just about combining items in stupid ways for puzzles that don't make any sense. And like, that was never the good part of those games.
Yeah. Like,
so therefore
like
we have the infamous cat hair mustache puzzle.
Mustache, yes.
Yeah.
Which that was Sierra, because that was the third Gabriel Knight game. Like, they had kind of lost their mojo by that point.
Mm-hmm.
That was not good. Like, that game was not good.
No, it wasn't.
I bought that game. It was horrible.
It's a little funny. My experience with adventure games mostly missed all the ones everybody knows, because I played some aimed towards kids when I was younger, and then they stopped existing when I got back into video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were well and truly dead for a good space of time there, until Telltale came along, basically. Like, apart from a few indie ones here and there.
Yeah. There's a company called Wadjet that does old school
great stuff.
Yeah,
Blackwell.
I mean, they're really good, but they're super niche.
Yeah, but they are like, if you like the older LucasArts games when they used the scum like verb sort of thing, like that's what the Wadjet games feel like to me, but with ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, they're the truest relative of those original games out there.
Yeah, they are true point and click adventure games, like in the old school. And then like text adventures never fully went away, because there's been the ongoing interactive fiction competition.
There are so many text adventure games that did interesting fourth wall breaks by writing random stuff to your computer or rewriting their own game files.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember it was a Space Quest game, which is where I first saw the, oh, I see you saved and reloaded thing. So like, oh, you think you're clever for quitting the game and reloading, do you? I know what you did. And that's a classic, because you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
I had never seen it before.
Long before I see you like Castlevania games. But yeah, interactive fiction there was a lot of stuff like that happening in that space, because there were multiple free toolkits to be able to make your own, and it's just text. You don't have to worry about graphics, so anybody can write a text adventure.
And that still happens.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, and that means there's a lot of garbage text adventures out there.
Sure.
But there's a lot of really fascinating ones that do really, really interesting stuff. Like there's one, I mean, this one's from years back now, but called Jigsaw, that is a pretty complicated, like, time travel story involving you and antagonist basically trying to stop each other from changing the past. And like, it does some really interesting stuff. Like, I highly recommend it. It's worth checking out.
I mean, one could argue that Homestuck is interactive fiction.
Homestuck is its own thing. I don't even pretend to understand
That is a cross-media thing done way better than most people who are doing that intentionally.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Homestuck is transmedia, and
Yeah.
there's
Like,
not
it
a
is-
lot of successful transmedia endeavors.
Like
There are a lot of
it is not for
attempts
me,
in the
but I can absolutely
mid-2000s.
respect it.
Yeah, it just popped into my mind because a friend said this week that they had begun reading Homestuck.
Well,
Oh, boy.
you'll see them next year.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry, your soul is gone now.
I mean,
They've begun experiencing Homestuck. I mean, yeah, they'll either bounce off like within an hour or two, or
like I
they're
did.
gone forever.
I didn't make it very deep into Homestuck.
Yeah,
I made it kind of deep, but I ultimately did not finish it.
I have read the entire thing. I'm not going to comment on the number of times, though. I've only read it start to finish once.
I did not get to the first new party, so
I did not get much past the first new party.
the problem was I'm a little bit too much of like, if I encounter a reference in a narrative I don't understand, I want to understand the reference. But that meant like they referenced previous comics, and so I started going back and reading those.
Going back to things like Problem Sleuth.
Yes. I don't go back to Problem Sleuth. Don't worry about it. I don't think it's relevant.
So I guess I will move forward in the list. There's a game that started kind of my madness with playing a bunch of different things on Game Pass that I have tried to sell numerous people on. It's a game called The Gunk, and it gets a lot of negative press for being very short. But I feel like this is kind of one of the beautiful things about Game Pass in general, is it gives some breathing room for short games to exist because, you know, you're not paying for them. They're just part of the subscription fee. So why don't you give them a try? The Gunk is a platformy or puzzle platform kind of game. Feels a little resource gathering at the same time. The idea is that you are one of a pair of ladies that drop down on a planet. They're out of money and they're looking for a source of something that they can sell, and they've found an energy signature on this planet. And the planet, by all extents, looks dead other than this one blip. And your character is the more adventurous of the two, and you go off in search of trying to find where the signal is coming from. And you encounter this potentially sentient organism that ends up getting called the Gunk, and it just sticks. And it's this pollution goo type stuff that is all over the planet. And you have a prosthetic arm that just happens to have a vacuum mode, and you can suck up the Gunk and
That's
clean
handy.
it up. So it feels a lot like Mario Sunshine in that you're cleaning up this planet of this Gunk, and the first time you clean up a major area, something happens and life immediately starts to spring back to life. And so the game is a lot of you exploring your way across the planet, chasing this energy signature while cleaning up bits of the ecosystem and watching this world come back to life. Because like in its corrupted phase with all the Gunk, I mean, it looks like a barren wasteland. Everything's gray and ugly, and rivers are toxic, that sort of thing. And then once you've cleaned up the area, like flora, fauna spring back to life. You could do all these things to use plant life and encourage it to grow, to solve puzzles, to get you to new areas. Because sometimes the plants will grow and they'll create stable platforms that you can jump out on to get to the next area. There's really not much combat to speak of. And the combat that does exist is more puzzle combat in that, yes, you're technically getting attacked, but you're using, your suction hand to pick up an enemy and then throw it back at a different enemy, that sort of thing. While you're roaming the planet, you collect resources. The resources are used to upgrade your equipment to do different things. Also scanning things out in the planet, gives you new schematics that you can then build when you go back to your ship. The relationship between the pair that are exploring this planet is never really solidified, but they're absolutely a couple. The way that they interact is a couple. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that they're a couple. They have a rickety ship that they share a mortgage on. They're totally a couple. And like, there's a genuine love and caring between them and the dialogue. And that's really what makes this game so entertaining, is as you're exploring the planet, there's a constant dialogue running back and forth between the two characters. One of them stayed with the ship and is the pilot of the ship, and you're off exploring, but while you're off exploring, the other one is worrying about you. And like, every time you go into a gunk infested area, the radio signals cut out. So there's a period of time where you're out of contact. And then when it reestablishes, like, there's always so much concern that like something bad might have happened to you. And, would you just come back to the ship? But no, you're still chasing the signal. It's a great game. Like, it's so good, and it's beautiful. It's got a quirky art style. It's not a difficult game, but the puzzles are entertaining enough. And from what I understand, it's about a 6-hour game in total. I'm getting close to the end of it. I just need to sit down and have another play session, and I'll probably push through.
I mean, 6 hours is where I kind of like my games to be, honestly.
Yeah. Not everything needs to be like a 50-hour,
Not everything needs to be Persona 5. I don't know how many more Persona 5s I have in my life.
Yeah, there's definitely a space for nice short games that I can just, play in a couple of nights.
The only negative, it is an Xbox ecosystem exclusive. So either Xbox or xCloud or the Xbox app, aka the Windows PC store. But it's super good. Like, if you've got access to Game Pass or anything like that, I highly suggest you check it out. It's a short download. It's a beautiful game. It's entertaining. The other game that I have been playing the hell out of on Game Pass is Forza Horizon 5. And I had never really played a Forza Horizon game until this point. It's basically a car MMO. Like, that's what it is. It's a car MMO. Like, you are driving around with other random people in this world doing mini objectives, or not. If you just want to drive around and do donuts out in the sand dunes, you could totally do that. I've talked about liking driving games once upon a time and then stopped playing driving games when they got too serious.
Similar boat here.
Ditto.
And this is just a stupidly fun game. Like of all the things that they have in this game, I found what is essentially the first car I drove, a 77 Honda Civic hatchback. And I ended up, they don't have the 77, they have the 74, but it drives just like I remember it driving. So I'm running around in this game in my very first car badly, and it's great. It's glorious.
Yeah, I was looking at it because I saw, I guess, apparently like the Ford Bronco is like a signature vehicle of the series, but I guess they don't have the Bronco 2, which is what I would need.
Right, exactly. Like, that's what I want. Is I had an 89 Ford Bronco 2.
That is exactly what I had.
It was maroon and tan, and it was standard. And it's that vehicle I wish I never traded off.
Uh-huh.
God, I love that thing so much.
Yeah. It's a good vehicle.
And it had the best back end. Like, it was this perfectly boxy square space to pack things in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember, like, when my wife moved out of her first classroom when she changed schools, it was so easy to pack up her classroom because, like, all the boxes fit in there perfectly.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just I've been spending most of my time driving the 2020 one Bronco, and just doing the various off-road courses. But like there's essentially the equivalent of a fate in this game where you're driving along and an event will spring up and everyone that's playing online is working towards scoring a certain amount of points. And like, so if you score enough in phase 1, it progresses to phase 2 or it progresses to phase 3. And then, you know, there's a final phase where if everybody gets to it, you get like a lot of points and rewards for getting this done. And like, the first part of one that I did was there's all these speed traps throughout the, you know, it's basically this giant open world map, and there's objectives scattered throughout the map. Like if you want to race on this course, you just drive up to this area and then, you know, hit your X button or whatever the key is on the PC, and you sign up for the event and do it. And but these weird fates, like there's all these speed traps and signs that you get points for knocking over, and you know, so there's this stretch of road, and the first objective was to, I don't remember how many miles of speeding you were supposed to do. So every time you zipped through a speed trap, it would like clock you at a specific speed, and you had to score speed over 75 miles an hour. And as much speed as it ended up basically like tabulating up to this, like, you know, 4,000 miles over the speed limit or something like that, where everybody was working towards it. And then, you know, then that switched and you had to, like, for minutes you drove a really windy stretch of road over 80 miles an hour, like ticked up points. And that was like the second part. And I don't think we made the third part, and I don't remember what the third part was, but it was like this event that just sprung up. And that's if you're in online mode, you're actually seeing drivers driving around. And you don't crash into each other or anything. Like you can't actually interact in that way, but you can see them driving. But if you're playing single player mode, what happens instead is your world is populated by the drivatars of all of your Xbox friends list.
Drivatars.
Yeah. And it's supposed to like base their actions on how they actually play as a player. So it's really weird to be like doing the equivalent of a Mario Kart, you know, racetrack, but everybody you're racing against is a name that you recognize. And when you pass their car, you see their avatar that they picked in the game as the person driving it. And one of the things that it does that's really cool that I don't think I've ever experienced in a game like this is when you choose your character, you have to pick a name from the ones that they have available.
Huh.
But they've also got all these nicknames too. And one of the nicknames was Bell. It is Bell, but that's fine. I'm okay with it.
Close enough.
And what makes it cool is every voice actor in the game addresses me by my name. So when I win a race, it says Bell won the race, which is really freaking cool. Like that, like it is so, it's hard to quantify how cool that is when you're used to just having the voice actor say the hero and then in the text it says your name.
Yeah.
Like the voice actor actually saying your name. And there's stupid events too. Like there's this one where you have to race an airplane. Like this airplane's taking off and you're trying to chase it, and at some point it drops like, you know, some motorbikes down onto the track, and you know you're racing them instead. And then as you get to the end, one of them does a big jump and like hops out in a wingsuit, and they're floating in the wingsuit, and you're trying to chase them while they're flying in the wingsuit. And it's an interesting game. And there's a player auction house. So like if you get there's a lot of things that give you the ability to get like random loot box vehicles, and I'm sure you can probably buy them on the store, but
So you can't just pick any vehicle you want.
That's not true. That's not true. There's a showroom that you can go in and just buy vehicles outright, but usually they're really expensive. Or you can go on the auction house and players are selling vehicles outright. Or you can get them from the equivalent of loot boxes. And I've gotten so many at this point that there's a lot of quote unquote common vehicles that you're going to get mostly, but the prices on the auction houses seems to be pretty reasonable. I've picked up a couple that I just wanted, like I wanted a Subaru WRX, and I was able to go on the auction house, and I think paid 5,000 of whatever the in-game equivalent of gold is, and I've got about 1 million gold or so now. So it's not a big deal. It's entertaining as hell. Like it's fun to drive these vehicles. There's just enough fidelity to make it enjoyable, but not so much simulation that it's fiddly.
There's such a good balance when it gets hit right.
Well, and what they do is there's user selectable difficulty settings, and it's like about a dozen different settings that you can tweak. So like how much auto steer you have, how much auto pathing you have, how hard it is to turn the wheel, there's this whole litany of things that you can tweak to either make the experience more arcade or more simulation. So like I have it pretty on the arcade. And what they do instead is like, if you are playing on harder settings, you get a point multiplier in the amount of points that you earn for doing things. But also, like, I don't feel like the points I'm earning are coming slow.
So do you use points to buy new cars or stuff?
You use the points mostly to shop on the auction house and buy other players' cars.
Cars.
Yeah.
Now, does the game have like? Can you soup up a car?
Yep.
Okay.
And that costs money too. Also, there's an experience tree for every automobile. Ooh. So doing points, you gain experience on each of the automobiles, and you can basically like unlock perks. I don't know. There's maybe a dozen or so perks per automobile that you can get. And then there's a whole bunch of there's a bunch of classes of every single car. So like the stock one is completely unrefined. It's just, this would be the equivalent of a vehicle as it rolls out of the showroom. And then there's certain tiers of souping up vehicles to where you can like I could take my 74 Honda Civic hatchback and tweak the hell out of it to make it like an S-class vehicle. And it would probably perform a hell of a lot better, but like, do I really care? No. But I could. Like, I could tweak it. And then the thing is like, if you get a vehicle tweaked the way you really want it, you can then sell your tweaked version of a vehicle on the auction house for more than a stock version of a vehicle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's an interesting economy in the game, but it seems completely reasonable because like I'm getting plenty of points. There are user created maps. I've not played with them yet, but like I think I have to unlock a certain. There's almost like a player skill level setting that you have to unlock to get some of the later things to unlock. And one of them is basically a Mario Maker style map creation that allows you to drive through courses that other players have made. It's a wild game. Like, it's fun. I just drive around, do the occasional course, spend a lot of time trying to hit cactuses in the desert because it's fun. You get points for hitting cactuses.
But they take so long to grow back.
No, they don't. They come back instantly, Grace. This is a video game. Driving in sand is like, It's hard. Like, it's really hard. Like, you can go out onto wet sand, and that's a thing. But like, it's set in essentially a fictitious area of Mexico, and there's a lot of areas that they kind of sampled from actual areas in Mexico that they created this superset of all these different features. So you have everything from snow to beaches to rock climbing to windy roads to straight stretches. It is basically a car MMO. Like that's and I dig it. It's fun.
That actually does sound super fun.
Yeah, it's just it's a mindless thing that you can get in, drive cars for a while, and then get back out, and it's cool.
Yeah, I like the tweaking and
you can do all this like nuance.
It sounds like that's what is it? Not Drive Club, but Need for Speed, The Crew, or what was it was going for?
Yeah, The Crew. Yeah.
And I really liked the concept there. I was really excited about that. The actual game didn't do it for me, but I loved the concept, and I like Need for Speed games.
I mean, like the thing is okay. So one of the things that this game does better than any racing game I have ever seen is it doesn't make you feel bad for sucking. In fact, it is overly cheery about the few good things you did. Like you may be all over the road, but it'll praise you for the one thing you did right. And there's almost a three dog thing going on with the radio stations, because there's a bunch of radio stations that you can listen to, and they're good radio stations. Like, they're really good radio stations.
I mean, good radio stations that's one of the most important parts of a game. I mean, where you're in a car. That's what made Grand Theft Auto games so great.
Yeah.
It's radio stations.
But like the one I've been listening to is basically, the alternative station, and it plays like Wolf Alice, and it plays The Killers, it plays all kinds of stuff. And there's a DJ on there like that is unique to that station. And there's other characters in the game that the DJ interacts with on the radio. So like it gives you this whole three dog feeling. And that was like part of what made Fallout 3 so good, is you had this constant living world aspect with this radio. And all the stations have their own person on them and kind of do the same thing. I'd say if you have access to it, I would highly check it out. If you don't have an Xbox Series console, but you have an older Xbox, like an Xbox One, recently Microsoft patched it to where you've got access to, if you've got Game Pass, you've got access to xCloud on the Xbox One and can play Xbox X and Series S games on that console.
Can I play these games on my computer?
You can, but again, they're only available through the Microsoft Store.
Yeah, but okay, so if I do decide,
if you pony up for the $10 for Game Pass on PC, you've got access to all these.
Okay.
Not that I'm trying to turn this into a sales pitch for Game Pass, but like, there's so many random games on it.
Game Pass is such a weird thing that's like the last decade of digital distribution from publishers, what they've been trying to do, but nobody's had enough games on it. And it turns out that if you have enough games on it,
but notably,
it's actually a good deal.
So
I say there are a lot of games on that Microsoft doesn't even own. Because they say to sign the right deals.
Yeah.
The other thing with Game Pass that I'm going to like, there were other people doing this, like Google was doing this with Stadia, except
no, they weren't.
Except you had to buy the game. Like you had to buy the subscription and then you had to buy the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said no, they didn't.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But they said that was what they were going to do.
EA has successfully done this in the past.
Yeah, EA did it.
EA has a very good value proposition on their, or at least they did, on their subscription service.
But that's the thing, is with Game Pass, you also have access to everything from the EA Pass.
Right, because they merged them.
Yeah, they merged them. So like
that was the big problem was EA had the subscription thing, and I know a few other people subscribed.
I grabbed a few months of it at a time for some particular EA games.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, I want to subscribe this month to get access. But the problem is that even a publisher like EA doesn't have enough games to justify me paying monthly for a subscription.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
We've discussed the Game Pass's ridiculous value proposition on the podcast previously.
yeah, like every month there's half dozen to a dozen new games that cycle on that are usually, first party titles and a bunch of other third party titles that they're bringing in too. It's just a stupid good deal. And like I'm consuming all of the available platforms. I play some of them on the PC. I play some of them now on the Xbox Series X, and I hang out in bed and play them on my phone via xCloud. And they all just work. Like it's a great deal. There's just so many games on this thing. Like I wanted to play Hollow Knight on the Xbox the other night, and it's on there. It's just on the Game Pass. Download it. You can play it.
I guess I ought to check this out. I mean, I'm paying a subscription for access to ancient Nintendo games. I ought to be willing to pay a subscription for access to modern games.
I think it's so freaking cool that like you can basically play all of the current Xbox's games on the previous generation just through streaming. Like that's nice. Like given how hard it is to freaking get a console right now. But anyway, like if you've got access to Horizon, it's fun as hell. I highly suggest it. I don't know how you actually meet up and play with human beings, but I've played a lot with people's drivatars.
I feel like that was a DriveCloud specific term that Sony is unconsciously mad at you for using on the podcast.
They call them drivatars in Horizon 2. That's
Really?
what they like. Apparently, since the very first Horizon game, they have called it drivatar, and it literally. So I was reading about this the other day because like I wasn't sure if it really was a thing or if it was just a bot named like another player. But apparently, if you have played multiple generations of Forza games, either the more serious Forza games or the Horizon games, it has recorded information on your Xbox profile about how you drive. And it has created a model of how you are, and that's what gets accessed when you're playing, or like when I see that person in my world. So I'm sorry about how bad I drive in your games. Just saying. I'm sorry I'm not a good driver in these games. I've been playing Mario Kart way too long, and this is definitely not Mario Kart. Yeah, and sadly I've got like free months of Game Pass that I can't give away because it came with my pre-built computer, but it only will authenticate against an account, and I can't add it to mine because I already have a higher tier that you gave me. Thanks a lot.
So I believe you can make use of that. If you next time your subscription lapses, just use that first, and then you can pay a bit less to upgrade.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
I started a game called Flynn, Son of Crimson, but I don't think I've played enough to talk about it seriously here yet.
I beat God of War on the PC and almost beat Guardians of the Galaxy, and those games are amazing.
Here I should really play God of War 4 or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah,
I don't know what number it is.
I should probably check out Dad of War. Never played any of the previous
Most
God of
people
War
ignore
games.
the fact that there was a fourth God of War game previously. So, whatever.
Like it is such an emotional game. It is. I would say it's one of those things that probably everybody should play after having played my way through it. Like it's just a really good experience that I not really had. Like the specific sliver of thing that it's doing, I've not experienced in another game yet. Anyway, I think that's probably a show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.